So let's start with the introduction. We will see that with the help of root locus, the relative stability and the transient performance of a closed loop control system are directly related to the location of closed loop roots of the characteristic equation in the S plane. That means if you are having one closed loop system and its characteristic equation is been given by, for an example, S is equal to sigma plus j omega, then the roots are located somewhere over here and over here. So the location of these roots, the location of these roots will decide that how the stability of the system will be, and it is giving me the information about the relative stability and the transient behavior of the system, transient behavior of the closed loop control system. The root locus technique is a graphical method for sketching the locus of the roots in the S plane as the parameter is varied. Which parameters we will discuss in the next coming slides. Then the root locus method provides the graphical information, and therefore an approximate sketch can be used to obtain qualitative information concerning the stability and performance of the system. Let's take an example. With an example, we will understand the concept. Consider a unity feedback control system shown in below. In this, you can see we are having one feedback control system over here with a gain of k and transfer function of k s upon 1. That is, if we talk about the open loop gain, that will be equal to k upon s plus 1. The input is rs and cs, and we are having a unity feedback over here. We do not have any feedback system. We are giving a unity feedback gain with a gain of unity. The open loop transfer function gs of the system will be gs equal to 1 of k upon s plus 1. And the location of open loop poles does not depend upon the gain k. And the closed loop transfer function is the cs upon gs. What will be the closed loop function? Let me write it over here. It might not be visible to you over here. C upon R will be equal to G upon 1 plus GS. They are all in the S domain, that's why I do. So if I substitute this value of GS, it will be equal to K upon 1 plus K upon S plus 1, which will be equal to K upon S plus K plus of 2 into S plus 1. So this will be the closed loop transfer function. This will become your closed loop transfer function. And this will be the roots. And what are the roots of this characteristic equation? When a substitute equal to 0, we will get the roots. So the location of the closed loop pole for a different values of the k are being over here. That means for k greater than 0, for the k greater than 0, when you substitute the values, different values of k, that is 0.5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, we will be getting the different pole values. That means for k is equal to 0.5, we are getting a pole at minus 1.5. Pole at minus 1.5, over, somewhat over here. Okay, pole at over here. When you substitute the gain is equal to 1, we are getting a pole at -2. When we are substituting a gain at 3, we are getting a pole at -4. When you are substituting a gain equal to 5, we are getting a pole at -6. When we are substituting the gain at gain is 10, we are getting the pole at -11 somewhat over here. And we are substituting the pole k is equal to 15, we are getting somewhat the pole at -16. That is, in this way, the gain tends, as the gate k tends to infinity, your poles will start shifting towards this one. Now, what is the root locus? Let's see. Let's discuss this thing. Now, that means what is the root locus? The root locus is the path of the roots of the characteristic equation traced out in the S plane as the system parameters varies from 0 to infinity. What are the system parameters? The system parameter is gain over here. Okay, when the gain moves from 0 to infinity, that means how the parameters, how the poles are moving. Okay, that is how the root locus of the poles are moving towards the infinity, or not only limited to the infinity, how they are moving either to this way, and how they are, what is the root locus of the path of the roots of the characteristic equation, that is called as a root locus. Now, how to sketch the root locus? The very easy way to compute the root locus, to compute the roots of the characteristic equation for all the possible values of the gain. That means we substitute the values at different values of gain, and we find the different values of pole for this simple system. But computing the roots for all the values of the gain might be tedious or higher order systems. That means if you go for the third order or the fourth order system, it will be very difficult to calculate just by placing one by one, and tracing the roots locus. So the finding the roots of the characteristic equation of degree higher than 3 is laborious, and we'll need the computer solutions for it. So if you consider a fourth order system, look at in this closed loop transfer function, finding the poles for a 4 poles with different values for the gain will be so tedious. Okay, how you will calculate? You calculate it for the k, and then you find out the calculating the k, then again you solve this complete equation by substituting it equal to 0 and finding the poles at different locations, and then you change the value of k, and then again you substitute this fourth order equation equal to 0 and find the roots of it. It will be so tedious that you won't be able to solve it. But even if we go more higher for a more complex system, you will go more higher order system, it will become more tedious and definitely require some computational techniques for solving it. Now, how to do this? So let's discuss the root locus concepts. How we will do this by taking this example. Let us consider that we are having one closed loop control system with a gain k and the plant. Let this be the controller gain. Okay, and this be the plant gain. Okay, we are just taking it as controller gain as a simple block over k with a gain k over here, and gs is your open loop gain. Now this k varies from 0 to infinity. This k varies from 0 to infinity, and this will be reflecting your as a and this will be your transfer function for it. So if we draw the transfer function for it, we will be getting kgs upon 1 plus kgs, which is equal to ps upon qs. This ps is your numerator part and qs is your denominator part. We are just taking it for a segregations to understand the concept more clearly. So the delta S will be equal to, that is your characteristic equation, okay, will be equal to 1 plus kgs equal to 0. That means we are substituting, this qs is equal to 0. We are substituting this qs is equal to 0. Okay, but this is your characteristic equation. So that means if I substitute this kgs equal to 1 plus kgs equal to 0, and we take the mod, that it will be defining that a mod of kgs will be equal to minus 1 plus j0. It will be equal to minus 1 plus j0, where mod value is equal coming to 1, and the angle is coming to be what? Plus minus 180 degree, 2k plus 1, and kg is equal to 180 degree plus 360 degree. Okay, that means k is varying from 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, or 0, 1, 2, 3. This k is different from the gain. No, this is different. This k doesn't get confused. This is not gain. Okay. Now consider this. If we increase, let's take example of GS is equal to order system, second order system, that is 1 upon S into S plus 2. Then the characteristic equation will be equal to 1 plus kgs equal to 1 plus k upon S into S plus 2. When you substitute it equal to 0, we will be getting this delta S, and the characteristic equation is equal to S square plus 2S plus k. And when we compare it with the standard equation, we will be getting that S square plus 2 zeta omega n plus omega n square equal to 0. This is what? This is your standard second order equation, where this zeta is your damping ratio. And omega n is your natural oscillating frequency. This is your natural oscillating frequency. Okay. So when we compare these two, and we calculate the mod from this equation, it is coming to be 1. And what are the angles? Different angles. When we substitute with this 1 plus minus 180 degree, 2k plus 1, k is equal to 0, 1. Okay, 0 and 1 and 2 and 3. So when we substitute it, we will be getting plus 180 degree, plus minus 540 degree. And when we compare these equations, we will getting the roots as equal to minus zeta omega n plus minus omega n and the root of zeta square minus 1. These are a standard equation for the second order. Don't get confused. It is only for the second order. So zeta is less than 1. What will be the zeta in this case? So in this case, your zeta omega n is equal to 1, and your omega n square is coming to be k. So omega n will be equal to under root of k. So when we substitute it, zeta will be coming to be 1 upon root k. Okay, which is quite less than 1, and the theta is coming to be cos inverse of zeta. Cos inverse of zeta. I think this is clear to you. So let's plot this. Let's plot this one. Let me plot this one. Let's take a simple one over here. Okay, let's take a simple one. This is your S plane. This is your S plane with the negative axis as j omega axis over here, and this is your positive axis. Okay, so if we plot this, these are defined by the roots of the closed loop pole. These are the roots of the closed loop system, and these are the poles. Okay, so these are the poles. So if we find out the poles for the previous equation, for the previous system, that means we are getting two poles. One pole is at -2, and let one pole it is equal to 0. Okay, one pole it is at -2 and one pole is at 0. So these are the roots. Okay, K2, K1, KE, K1, K2. So K1 and K1, these two roots are your complex conjugate roots. That is with the only the complex part. Okay, complex root with plus j omega and your minus j omega. Similarly, this is your K2 for plus j omega and for minus j omega. Okay, complex conjugate roots plus minus. Okay, somewhat over. So for the previous equation, this was your second order system. So when we substitute s equal to s1, you will be getting it equal to 1. K is equal to s into s1 into s plus 2. And this will be our equation coming to be plus minus of 180 degree. So this is the angle. This is the angle. This is at 0 degree. Okay, this is at 0. So this is the angle is being measured from this axis towards this axis. Okay, always from the real axis we move it towards the anti-clockwise direction and then we calculate the angle. So this was your angle S1 was coming to you. Okay, and this is your next pole with your S1. So if this is the root 1 S1 and we will calculate the distance from each of the poles. The distance from each of the poles. The distance of this edge is from S1 from this pole is coming to be S1 plus 2. And for this one, it is called to be plus mod of S1. And the angle is coming to be this much. And angle is coming to be this much. Okay. So how to draw this first of all? So that, that was just an example that how the roots are behaving, that how the roots are behaving and what is the locus of the roots. Now let's take another one. Just take a simple one. We will see that what are the 7 steps for sketching the root locus. What are the steps have to be followed up to draw the root locus. Okay. So let's take this example, simple closed loop system. The transfer function is given by gs upon 1 plus kps. Okay, this is your gs upon 1 plus gs into hs. So we are taking it as a k into ps. So first step is that prepare the root locus sketch, that write the characteristic equation so that the parameter of interest k appears as a multiplier. That means 1 plus kps equal to 0. We have to substitute the denominator part is equal to 0 of the closed loop system. Of the closed loop system, not of the open loop. We have to provide it over the closed loop system of the overall closed loop system of the system of the closed loop system, and then we have to substitute the denominator part of equal to 0. Then the factor PS in terms of the NAND poles and AM zeros over here, and locate the open loop poles and zeros PS in the S plane in the selected with the selected symbols. For a poles, we use the cross symbol, and for zeros, we use the circle. That means if I want to draw, if I would like to locate the pole, then I will use this one. And if I want to draw the zero, then I will locate with this symbol. Okay. Now we will determine the number of separate loci. That how many separate locuses are there, which is equal to SL equal to N when N is greater than M, and where N is the number of finite poles. Number of finite poles. Then we will be having the root loci are symmetrical with respect to the horizontal real axis. That means if this is the horizontal real axis, then we have to identify the root locus are symmetrical towards the real axis. If that means if you are having a pole over here, okay, this is your j omega axis, and this is your real axis. If you are having the real axis a pole over here, then it must have a complex conjugate at this end, at this half of the also of the S plane. Okay, we cannot have, it must be symmetrical about the geometry about the sigma axis, that is about the real axis. Okay. Next step is to locate the segments of the real axis that are root loci. That means the root locus to the left of an odd plane, odd number of poles and zeros. Okay. Then the loci proceed to the zeros at infinity along the asymptote centered at sigma and an angle of phi a. That means your phi a, sigma a will be equal to just sum of the poles minus the summation of the zeros. That means if you are having two poles, that is minus 2 and minus 3, and 1 0, it is at minus 4. Okay, then we have to do the summation of these two, that minus 5 will be there, then the summation of this minus 4, and the subtraction of this. That means your sigma will be coming to be, or this one, where n, m, n are the number of poles and number of zeros. Okay, in some books you may find it as n as a number as defined by p, and m is defined by z. Okay, so p minus z is being taken into consideration. Then after this, we have to determine the points at which the locus crosses the imaginary axis. If it is not, then it is not necessary. That if any of the pole or the row locus is crossing the j omega axis, we have to identify these points. We have to identify these points because these points will give me the information about the critical, or we also call it as a marginal stability. It will be giving me the information about the critical or the marginal stability. Okay, using the Routh-Hurwitz criteria, we can find it using the Routh-Hurwitz criteria, which we have discussed. So determine the break. Next is to determine the breakaway point in the real axis over here. That means how? By setting the k is equal to ps, and determine the roots by taking the first order differentiation for this value, that is the dps upon ds is equal to 0, and use a graphical method to find out the ps and the angles by this one. Then after this, determine the angles of the locus departure from the complex poles. Determine the angle of the locus departure from the complex poles and angle of locus arrival at the complex zeros using the phase criteria. Now complete the root locus. Okay. Let's take an example. Consider this example which we have seen in the previous case, that k is equal to, the gain is second order, the gain is taken as a 1 upon s into s plus 2. So this was your characteristic equation. Okay, then from this we will find out these values, that is how many number of poles are there. There are two poles. Remember this thing, the order of the pole, what is the order of the system is equal to the number of poles. Order of the denominator first of all. Okay, if it is a second order, two order, then we will be having the two poles. And if it is a third order, then we will be having the three poles. And what are the number of zeros? We do not have any complex terminologies with this one. That's why it is equal to, we are having no zeros. We are having no zeros. That is m is equal to 0. Okay. Now, how many number of separate loci are there? That is your given by n minus m. How many separate loci are there? That is 2. Okay, 2 minus 0 is equal to 1. Now, after this, we will locate all these number of poles and zeros on the S plane. So how many poles are there? One of the pole is at is s equal to 0, and one pole is at s equal to -2. So there is one pole at s is equal to 0, okay, and one of the pole is at the s equal to -2. The poles are defined by the cross. Remember this thing, and the zeros are defined by the circle. So we do not have any zeros. That's why you will not be able to find any of the zeros over here. You will not be able to find out any of the zeros over there. Okay. Now, after this, the segments on the real axis. How many segments on the real axis are there? There is only one segment. Remember this thing. It is important to know that the root locus always move from pole to 0. Always moves from pole to 0. If we do not have any of the zeros in the system, then it has to be considered that there must be existing one zero at infinity. Zero at infinity. Okay. The poles and zeros are always found in pairs. The poles and zeros are always found in pairs only. We cannot have an individual pole or individual zero. Yes, if we have an individual pole, then it must be observed that one of the zero must be at the infinity. That's why if we consider the two poles over here, one pole is at over here and one pole is at over here, then the poles, the zero associated with it will be existing somewhat over here. And one zero associated for this pole must be over here at infinity, plus infinity and minus infinity. Okay. Now we will draw the segments. How many segments are there in the root locus? So we start it from here and we will move it from this point, and we also move it from this point, and there is some point that is your KE, after which these two segments will get apart from each other. And how they are moving, we will see it later. Okay. So first of all, we have to draw it on the real axis. We have to draw it on the real axis. Okay. Another important thing in drawing the segments is that while drawing the segments, has to be kept in mind that if we are drawing the segment for this pole must have an odd number of poles or zeros at this location towards its left side of the plane. If it is so, then it will be having this one. Okay. And for this side, we do not have any odd number of this one, but we are having at this side, so it will move towards this one. Okay. So the movement of the poles will be in this direction along the x-axis. Okay. Now let's see. Find out the sigma A. Okay. The sigma A, the segmentation, look at this previous slide. What was your sigma A? Sigma A was the asymptotes, center of asymptotes. Okay, which has been calculated by how? This is calculated by number of poles minus number of zeros. Summation of poles minus summation of zeros upon individual separate loci, SL. Okay. So if we substituted the values over here, we will get how many, what are the number of poles? 1 is equal to 0 and 2, both 0. So n is equal to 2 and n equal to 0. So 0 number of poles plus of minus of 2 upon 2 minus 0, which is given to the -1. That means there is a center where these segments, these poles are getting centroid, and asymptotes will go from this one. So this is your value. This is your value, k is equal to -1. Okay, it will get separated from this one. Now let's find the angle of asymptote. So to find out the angle of asymptote, the formula is given that 2k plus 1 upon n minus m into 180 degree, where we substitute the different values of k for k is equal to 0, 1, 2, and so on. So how many values we have to take the k? We cannot take it for the infinite values. We have to take according to the number of poles. Okay, that is 0 and 1, 2. Only two values will be considered. Okay. So how many numbers of there? K is equal to 0 and 1. So when we substitute k is equal to 0 and k is equal to 1 in these two, then we will be getting for k is equal to 0, phi is coming to be 90 degree. And for k is equal to 1, it is phi is coming to be 270 degree. That means one of the asymptote will go, one of the root locus will go towards the 90 degree. And one of the asymptote will go towards the 270 degree. Okay. That's why it is moving in this way. Is this clear? So the root locus does not cross the imaginary axis. Yes, we do not have any crossings of the root locus of the imaginary axis. So when we find out the k for this, we will be getting what, how we have told you. I have told you that we will substitute this k is dk by ds. Okay, we will consider for an example, it was coming to be s square plus 2s plus k equal to 0. So we calculate it equal to k is equal to minus s square minus 2s. And then we substitute this value, we will do the differentiate, first order differentiation with respect to s equal to 0. So when we equate equal to 0, we are coming to be equal to dk by ds is equal to what? S is coming to be minus of 1. Okay. So we can see that this value s is equal to 1 is similar with this centroid, with this angle of asymptote, with this asymptote. Okay. So sigma A and both are coming to the same one. Look at this one. Look at the slides. The breakaway point and the asymptote centroid will be the same in this case. It is always not necessary that they will be always the similar way cases. No, they will not be. They may or may not be. But in this case, we are getting the same breakaway point and the same this one. Okay. Now, do we have any complex poles? No, we do not have any complex poles. And this is a code for it. This is a MATLAB code for finding the values. That means we are having a transfer function s dash and the g is equal to 1 upon s into s plus 2 rk, okay, equal to root locus of g and r locus for g. Okay. Now look at this. Let's take an example for a higher order system. We have taken an example for the second order system, which can be easily solved. But if we are getting up for a higher order system, then how to solve for those type of problems? Let's see. Consider this equation. This is your characteristic equation, denominator qs. This is your qs. Okay, for an example, and we have substituted qs is equal to 0. That is 1 plus k upon s4 plus 12 s cube plus 64 s square plus 128 s equal to 0. So when we substitute it and we bifurcate it, we will be getting is equal to 1 plus k upon s into s plus 4 plus of j 4j s plus 4 minus of 4j. That means we are getting how many poles are there? 4 poles. And what was the order of the system? The fourth order system. So we can have clarified you that what is the order of the system? We will be getting the same number of poles. Okay. So one pole is at s equal to 0, one pole is at s equal to -4, and we are having one complex conjugate pair of the poles. that is s plus 4 plus 4j and s plus 4 minus of 4j. So how many number of poles are there? N is equal to 4. And how many zeros are there? 0. We do not have any zeros. So that's why your n minus m will be equal to 4. This is clear. So that's why it is equal to the number of separate loci. How many separate loci are there? 4. So what does it separate loci means? In the previous equation, we have got in the separate loci as 2. That means there are 2 separate locuses. Okay, now we are getting the separate loci as 4. That means 4 separate locuses will be there. We will be getting the 4 separate locus. Okay, 1, 2, and 3 and 4. Okay, in this way. I will tell you later. So then after this, we will find out the root loci are symmetrical with respect to the real axis. Yes, we have the complex conjugate pairs and they are symmetrical about the real axis. Okay. So then we will find out the segment exists on the real axis on the real axis. Yes, we will find out the segment that is coming from the s equal to 0 and 4. So first of all, let's plot these poles on the real axis. So there is one pole s is equal to 0 over here. Here there is one pole s is equal to minus 4 over here. And there is two poles, complex conjugate pairs plus s plus 4 and s plus 4 minus of 4. That means we are getting an s pole at s is equal to minus 4 plus j and s is equal to minus 4 minus j. So here we are getting one pole. Here we are getting one pole s plus 4, this s plus 4 plus j and s minus 4, sorry, s minus 4 plus j and minus 4 minus j. So we are getting two poles over here and two poles over here, and we do not have any this one. Okay. So now the angle of asymptotes and their departures. Let's see. Now the angles and the center of the asymptotes. If you find out the center of asymptote, it is coming to be minus 3. That is by coming by summation of poles and summation of minus summation of 0. So these are your minus 4, minus 4, minus 4, and the separate number of separate loci are 4. It is coming to be minus 3. That is at this location. Okay, this is the center of asymptote. The angle of this is equal to 2k plus 1 upon 4 into 180 degree. When we substitute k is equal to 0, 1, 2, and 3, we will be getting these 4 values. Okay, plus 45 degree, 135 degree, 225 degree, and 315 degree. That means one of the angle, we draw it from four segments over here. One at a 45 degree, one at a 135 degree, one at a 225 degree, and another is a 350 degree from this point, from this center. Okay, this is clear. Then after this, we will calculate the breakaway point. We will calculate the breakaway point from this one. So how to calculate it? Let's see. Using the Routh-Hurwitz criteria, we have substituted it equal to 164k, 12, and 28. Okay, then we will calculate this multiplying this using the Routh-Hurwitz criteria, and then we will submit it. Okay, and we are getting that s square into b1 into k over here. Then we have to find out the values of b1 and k over here. And how to find out how? That b1 will be equal to 12 into 64 minus of 128 upon 12, which is giving to the 53.33 value. And c1 was coming to the 53.33, that is your b1. Okay, that is your this equal to this minus 12k upon 53.33, which is quite greater than 0. So that means your k value is coming to be less than 568.89 degree. Sorry, 568.89. Okay, so when we calculate this, we are getting 53.s square plus 50 into this, and we substitute this equal to this, and we will getting this value. So the breakaway point is estimated by evaluating the k into ps from the fourth equation, and that is coming to be equal to this. When we take the first order differential equation of this, we are getting the roots as locations of the roots at this one, this one, and this one, and this one. Okay. So minus 3.7117. So let's see first of all before this. Let's see that how we are we are getting the segments of this. So we are getting the two poles over here and two poles over here. Okay, that means the line segment of the root locus will be this one. The segment of the root locus between lie between these two segments only. Okay, these two poles. Now let's see. So one pole is at over here P1 and P1 cap, and one pole is at over -4 and one pole is at 0. So when we calculate it, we will be finding it that your minus 1.57764 is coming to be a breakaway point, which is lying within the segment. We do not have any other point which is lying within the segment. This is a complex number, so it is out of the boundary. This is also a complex number, so it is also out of the boundary. We are not taking these two. Only this point will be coming within, which is in the segment on the real axis. So on the real axis, it is coming to be that minus 1.577 is your segment point. Okay, so that means this is your breakaway point. This is your breakaway point. Okay, so that means one of the pole will move from this way and go towards this side, and one of the pole will go from this way and towards this side. Okay, and two of the poles will move in this direction. They will move along the asymptote. So if we increase this, sorry, let me draw some straight line for you. So if we increase this segment, we will see that it is going the asymptote. It is going parallel to this asymptote. Okay, for this pole. And similarly, if we increase this one, we can see that it is also going in parallel to this asymptote. The pole of this one, P1 cap and P1 is going in this way. Okay. And if you draw the asymptote, we have taken an asymptote was coming to me around this over here, and the one of the pole will go from this and move towards and go parallel to this one, and one of the pole go from this and go parallel to this side. Okay. So the angle of locus of the departures of the complex poles. How to calculate the angle of departures? So to calculate the angle of departure, there is a formula, that is theta 1 plus 90 degree plus 90 degree plus 30 degree equal to 20 degree plus k into 360 degree. That is the angle theta 1 plus theta 2 plus 90 plus 90 and so on. That means the theta 3 and is coming to be 135 degree. That means the theta 1 coming to be 225 degree. So the angle of this will be equal to, will be along the 135 degree. Okay, and one angle will be at around, for this it is coming to the angle of departure will be 135 degree, and for this it is 225 degree departure. Okay. Now let's take the real problem, that how we are going to calculate the stability and all the values for the automatic cell balancing scale.